Hi, hello, and welcome back to East India Marketing Company's next episode. Again, Jenna is no longer there, and look who is here, a friend, guest who I'll shortly introduce, who wears many hats and who has above many things a very naughty streak in him, and we'll get to it as we go along. What is so naughty about him? Very happy to have Dhruv with us, Dhruv Mookerji. Dhruv, why don't you try to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Now you made it sound as if Jenna's no longer with us, as if he's been fired from the show. So he wasn't able to make it today, is what you meant. But it's my pleasure to be here on the IMC. Alex, if I may keep calling you that, I don't want to make it too formal and call you Alekko. But at least we in the cuisine fraternity call you Alex. So Alex, you will always stay for us. But it's an absolute delight to be on this show.
Awesome. So I think I have this one constant Dhruv, and I want to share this with my viewers that whichever guest I'm going to call upon is someone who wears many hats, like beyond just the bit that he or she does in the marketing advertising space, right? So which is why your name was right there in the list that I had drawn up with Jaina as to the ones that I want to have on the show. And then the moment I jump into the conversation, I think the viewers will realize why. Dhruv, for the benefit of the viewers, is professionally involved with Ogilvy, has been there with them I think for 7 years almost now as a
Almost 7. Yeah.
yes in the
I'm a
creative team
creative
and
director with the Kolkata office right now.
with the Kolkata office. He is into theaters for almost two and a half decade, if I'm not wrong, right? So that's
Uh, yeah, no, 30 years. Oh,
30
sorry,
years.
theater is no. You're right. 2.5 is more accurate.
2.5 years, right? So and you would have seen, yeah, I don't know, his face has sort of changed, but you would have seen him in some films, both in the 30-second versions for television commercials and films, and we'll talk about all of that as well. And he's an avid quizzer, and he's honestly one of the best human beings that I have had the chance and privilege to know personally, and we'll talk about that. So I think to start off with, through one question that I asked to all of our guests here, that at what point of your journey, as when you were growing up, did you sort of start having a semblance of some idea as to what you want to do in your life, professionally and beyond?
So in my case, my life, the entire thread of my life is defined, more unfortunately, by the lack of any fixed plan or any ambition. So no facet of my life has been something that I've said, yes, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be, let me work towards it. Which is typically, growing up, that is what every kid is advised to do, right? Have a dream, have a vision, work towards it. 80% of my life would be just things coming my way and me deciding what to grab onto, what to latch onto, what not to. So I was one day, I had nothing to do with the world of acting. One fine afternoon in class 9, I was watching an old black and white movie called Carry On Spying. If you remember, there was a TNT, TCM, there used to be the black
Yeah.
channel that used to specialize on old Hollywood. So I was just casually watching it. It was one of the Carry On movies, comedy, and I fell in love with it. I laughed so much. I fell in love with it. And every time there were reruns, I would rewatch that. And then from that, I started to imitate Kenneth Williams, who's the lead actor, and even the other guys. Then I started watching all the Carry On films and started imitating him all the time, and just for the heck of it, no other reason. And then somehow, when a chance came to act on stage, I just took that and I replicated that, whatever I could. Same with stuff like elocution, extempore. It's just stuff that came away and I did it. And then my mother said, "Look, you should go to St. Stephen's College and do economics because
So
that's
your
the way to
mother
make."
told you the, like, sort of
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah.
Okay.
If you left it to me, I would have just followed the shortest path, right? I would have stayed on in Kolkata. I would have just taken whichever university college came my way, wherever my friends were closest. So I wasn't ambitious at all. She said that's a good thing to do. I said fine, let's go ahead with it. Then I never regretted that because I was very happy when I went to St. Stephen's College. Had the time of my life. After St. Stephen's College finished, again I was while in college, unlike everybody else, was thinking, look, either I'm going to do CAT or I'm
Wait,
going to
no.
continue.
Yeah, tell us more about the 3 years. Don't jump into what after Stephens. Yeah, yeah.
So I was in economics honors and I was in residence, hostel in college. But for me, college was such a world, shifting of a world from what I'd grown up in terms of Kolkata, right? You have a smaller, much more focused group in Kolkata, and suddenly over there you're exposed to people from all over. Whatever you think you've been good at for the last 15, 16 years of your life, you see there are people who are just as good, and there are people who are much better than that. So either you say, okay, look, my place is elsewhere in the pecking order, let me just stay here, or you
Yeah.
push yourself and say, look, let me chase, let me try. So I in college I tried to do as much as I possibly could at
Mm.
the cost of study. So I wasn't very focused on academics, which is why I was not thinking in terms of pursuing economics. I was not thinking of CAT. I gave CAT just because again
Yeah.
everybody was giving CAT, so I said okay, let me give CAT. I hardly put any effort into it. And when college finished, I just applied wherever I could. Okay, so chalo, let's give NSD exam, let's give JNU exam, let's give Jamia Millia, let's give whatever. Didn't get through anyway. I said, let's take a year off. That's when one of my closest friends, Tathagoto Chaudhary, TC, as he is known, he said he came to receive me at the station and he figured that I'm on a low because all my batchmates were they figured out what to do after college, and
Mm.
I
Mm.
was effectively looking at a gap year.
Mm.
And like literally, he's picking the luggage up, helping me with my bags. We're all just getting out of the train, and he says, "We'll, we'll do something good this year. Don't worry, whatever it is, we'll do something good." And he didn't bother me. He just let me be for a month and a half, and I just tried to just figure out my own mind space. Then I went to watch a play at the Grand Hotel,
Mm.
and I told him, I said, you know what, it'd be so great to just direct a play, And I used to read a lot of plays, just for the
Okay.
joy of it. I would read plays because I was into theater in college. So he said,
Mm.
let's direct a play. You choose what you want to.
Mm.
So, and that's how I directed my first play, and then first became second, third, and I've been like in over 50 productions, not 50 different
So wait. The
shows.
first one was in Calcutta. The first one was in Calcutta. The one that
Yes,
you.
it was the Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party. It was the
Okay.
first play I ever directed. I also acted in it and I directed it. That was in 2002. And once I started doing that, then before I knew it, by the time 2003, 1 year passed, I had done I think what 3, 4 productions, acted in other productions. I was then of course other groups start to see you and they say, look, will you act in our play? So suddenly I
Yeah.
became very deeply entrenched in the Kolkata theatre circuit, very very
Okay.
active.
Hmm.
When the next year came again, I said, what do I do? In that year, another close friend of mine called Rahul Roy, he was going to join XLRI the following year.
Hmm.
He realized that we stay very close to each other. He said, why don't you just come over, and just chill?
Hmm.
So I would go and I started watching movies, and I had never
Hmm.
been a movie buff until then.
No,
Honestly, I mean,
no,
apart from being
really.
a big
Wow.
Bollywood buff, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I would only watch Bollywood, and that too masala Bollywood. Like, so my friend Rahul said, let's watch movies, make movie nights whenever we can, and that's when I started watching like Hollywood, world cinema, and I got deeply
Hmm.
into that as well simultaneously with theater. So
Hmm.
when 2003 came, I got this KEDA, then let me apply to film school. So I sat for FTIA and I sat, which is a Pune, and I sat for Satyajit Ray Film and TV Institute, which is in Kolkata. I gave both the exams.
But wait,
I got
just pause.
calls for both.
One question. You said NSD, etc. Those exams you had given when you were at Stephens, right?
Yeah,
But this is the
yeah,
second
yeah.
time. Like once you have fallen in love with movies all over again, then you are
Yes,
again
yes.
applying to
The
the film
first
school.
time it was on autopilot. I
It
was
was, yeah. Okay.
bilkul. Like, so in my head, I'm in Delhi. What should I do? I should stay in Delhi. Again, what are the places in Delhi? There's Jamia, there's JNU, there's NSD. Apply to them. That's it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
it
Yep.
was as simple as that.
Hmm.
So the next year again, I sat, gave the film school exams. I was waitlisted for SRK. So then I got into JU Film Studies, Jadavpur University. I did about a
Hmm.
month, maybe a little more than that, maybe about 45 days of film studies. Then I got converted from waitlist to admission in SRFT. So I joined that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is the way it's just been going. And then after SRFT I finished, I was again, I was not really. I realized that I'm not as driven to be a full-fledged filmmaker as of now.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was getting more into doing more and more theater in the 2000s.
Hmm.
So I stuck to
Hmm.
theater, and then for 2, 3 years I did a lot of theater with theatrician, with other groups, did as many productions. Then I gave an audition one day again. I gave an audition for the namesake. Tess Joseph, who's now a very big name in casting in Bombay. At the time, she
Hmm.
was working on the casting team for the namesake. So she said you should audition.
Hmm.
So I gave the audition. I got the role. I did that. Then from that, Bengali cinema and Bengali serials here came. So I said, why not do that? So it was just whatever was coming. I was like, okay, this either looks like something fun to do or it's not. If it's not,
Okay.
let it go. If it is, do it.
Hmm.
And that's
Something
exactly
fun
been
to
my
do is the
journey
filter.
all.
Something fun to do if you have feel like doing it,
Something
then
that's
you do.
yeah, something fun to do rather than okay, look, let me weigh my options. Okay, this is what I should do. And my
Yeah.
mother would also scold me. She said, look, you're doing everything, you're enjoying, that's fun, but why are you not pushing yourself? Why are you not developing? Why, if you're fond of theater, why aren't you
Hmm.
chasing a full-fledged theater course? Why aren't you going abroad? Why aren't you doing more? And I was just
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never been I'm been a very very lazy and very very comfy zone kind of person throughout. And then again the same thing happened. I got into ad films again. TC Tatagato was working with the production also. When he called and said there's an audition for an ad film, why don't you do
Okay.
the audition for an ad film? And
Which
again,
brand
it
was
was
this?
for me. It was This was Spice Jet. So
Okay.
and the audition came to me. This is 2010,
Hmm.
and this is long before we had developed a full-fledged webcam and phone recording
Hmm.
culture. This is early days, but I just bought a MacBook the year before, my first
Hmm.
MacBook, which had a very nice video cam. What do you call it, like a
Yeah.
webcam?
Yeah.
So I said, let me do it in this. And again, because I was not thinking career and I didn't have that pressure on me, I said, I want to enjoy this audition. I want to treat it like a skit.
So
So
the
I did the
spontaneity
audition.
was very much
Yeah,
visible.
yeah. I enjoyed it much more.
Hmm.
And I didn't know, right? I didn't know that you're just supposed to do whatever you can. I took
Yeah.
it, I added, I did whatever I could to make it more fun. And I did it. Later on, when I got the role, the team, they said, look, we thoroughly enjoyed the way you've done that. So we used to watch the audition tape over and over again because that was great fun. And that helped us, the fact that we enjoyed watching the tape itself as a
Yeah.
piece meant that, so then
You
that
got the
first
gig.
ad happened. Then,
Hmm.
yeah, I got the gig. One became
Hmm.
two, two became five, five became 10. And then again, one day, a screenwriter named Kamlesh Kunti Singh, whom I'd worked with on a movie in Kolkata, which
Yeah.
for various reasons never released, but we shot the film.
Hmm.
Bumped into him one day and he said, "Hey, Acha, why don't you come help me write this Hindi serial which I'm writing in Bombay?" So I
Hmm.
said, "Okay, chalo,
Hmm.
now." Everybody's been saying, my mother's been saying, move to Bombay, move to Bombay. I was like, okay, now
Hmm.
someone's told me I have something, so now I will go to Bombay. So I
Hmm.
went to Bombay. I crashed with my friend Sumit
Hmm.
Rai, and I said, chalo, let me do this. After a month,
Hmm.
I got my own place, and before I knew it,
Hmm.
I'm doing that. And then while in Bombay, then I got associated with Synergy, Siddharth Basu's company, Big Synergy at the time,
Yeah.
and uh, started working on the background of Kaun Banega Crorepati, Kaun Huel Marathi Crorepati, Spell B. Then, for personal reasons, I had to move back to Kolkata. So I wrapped up Bombay in the mid 2000s, came back, kept
Okay.
on doing ad films. One day, I'm doing an ad film for Fortune Oil here in Kolkata. We're shooting,
Hmm.
and the main light goes bust, and there's a
Hmm.
huge power outage.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
around 5:30 in the evening. So we have to wait 20 minutes for the stuff to be reassembled. So we're just strolling around, and this person from the agency, he walks up and says, recognize me, we had met last year. And I remembered I'd met him at a friend's house. I was like, yeah, yeah. I said, hi, how are you? So we're just generally chatting. Then I realized
Hmm.
he's the head of the agency. He's behind the film, the script. And he said, have you ever considered this side of advertising, working in an ad
Hmm.
agency? So
Hmm.
I said that, no, I've never really thought about it. He says, if you're interested, why don't you do it? And I said that, okay, why not? Because at the time, again, I was at a crossroads, because I was in a relationship, and I realized
Okay.
now, if I have to settle down, I will
It
have
might
to
as well
get
be.
some semblance of, yeah. So when he said that, I said, okay. For me, it was more like, okay, it's something to consider. So I said, yeah, sure. We exchanged
Hmm.
numbers.
Hmm.
The way you do, right? You make small talk. Within 24 hours, he had called. So I said, okay, he's serious. So I said, let me go and meet him. We met, and he said, da 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 da. I'm going to start, formalizing with the HR to get in touch with you and get your papers ready. So then I realized it's happening. And at the
Hmm.
same time, I had got a gig offer in Bombay to act in a Star Plus serial
Okay.
as a sort of, as a not as a lead, but there are three people in the story, as one of the three characters, but who enters
Nice.
slightly later in the story. So they pitched it as, okay, it's not the lead, but it's also not like a stupid supporting role. It's a very prominent role, and obviously I knew that the money would be much better there. So, and I was again
Yeah.
at the crossroad. But again, I'm a home bug. I don't like being anywhere without my dogs. So I said, let me just grab this opportunity. So I joined Ogilvy, and before I knew it, I'm in Ogilvy, and then I'm like, wow, now I'm a working guy. So now I can, officially say that, yeah, I'm ready to settle down. And then I got married,
Yeah.
and the marriage happened, and Ogilvy happened in 3 years, and the life's gone out. And then in recent times, I've also got separated, and
Hmm.
but Ogilvy's still going on. So again, there is no nothing, no angle to this. So it's
Wonderful, wonderful. No, I think Dhruv. I mean, sorry. The always the gig is how do I spot some patterns, right? As to your story, I think like you mentioned in the beginning, I think that is with the pattern. Like just it's like a river, right? It's continuous a flow, and you haven't really wanted to bucket it in a certain way, right? And number two, I felt that at pivotal moments there have been friends who have had a like a sort of a nudge. They have come in, and of course your mom as well, right? So That has been one more constant which I loved. But what I can't resist asking is, I think this is a question I ask on the behalf of many quizzes as well. How do you manage to do all of it in 24 hours, like which all of us have? How do you manage to wear so many hats? How do you manage to take part in so many meme quizzes? And we'll talk about them also in short. But yeah, how do you manage to do all this in the same
So I on
length of day that we have?
on working days like Mondays to Fridays, I try to do some semblance of what they call
Hmm.
time slicing, right? So in my head, I'll say, look, if I'm sitting with something, it can weigh down on me a lot, right? If it's work or whether it's something quiz related or whether it's something house related, right?
Yeah.
Suppose I know that I have to clean up my room.
Hmm.
If I don't put a time frame and something to it, it'll be like a thing in my. But I'll say, okay, look, from 11:30, I'm going to
Yeah.
switch on the music system and I'm going to listen to exactly 4 songs for 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, I will knock all of this off. So when
Okay.
that is happening, then it's almost like a self challenge, right? So then I'll drive myself to make sure everything's done. And in
Hmm.
20 minutes, I'm 80% there or 100% there. If I'm 80% there,
Hmm.
then it's irritating me. So then I'll say, okay, take 5 minutes more and finish that off. So then that task is
Okay.
knocked off.
Okay.
It's the
Hmm.
same with, for example, work. Like if I know I have to write a script, or if I have to say send something advertising related, I'm like, look,
Yeah.
if I sit with this and just let it go on and do other things, it'll not. So from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I will just focusly knock off all these things in office. So I'll
Hmm.
do that. I'll drive myself to knock everything off. Something that
Hmm.
requires a little more, thought and marination, collaborating with others. That of course you can't help it. You set aside time.
Yeah.
If it's quiz related, again, I'll say there's 1 hour. In this 1 hour, I will write these many questions, or I will, finish this
Yeah.
part off of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's how I go about it as much as possible.
Very nice. And one double click on that. Like you mentioned, 80% if it's there, and then just you add a 5% and get done with it, right? So in all your vocations, the pursuit of perfection is a constant need for many, right? So like whether it be the creative that you make, or the lines that you write, or let's say the quiz set, the framing that you do in each of the questions. So how do you settle mentally? Like if like you said 80%, so you are there, or, you don't stop until you're not happy until you achieve very close to 100.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
No, so in for example in quizzing and in acting,
Hmm.
it's very easy for me to understand where I want to be, right? So when
Hmm.
I'm setting a
Hmm.
quiz,
Hmm.
in my head I can replay the quiz and I know whether the quiz is going to be accessible or not,
Yeah.
enjoyable or not, challenging or not, whatever it is that I need
Hmm.
to take, entertaining or not.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if it's not that, I'll keep pushing myself. Similarly with
Hmm.
acting, when I'm doing it, I know, again, it maybe the director on that day is satisfied with it or my co-actor is happy with it, but if in
Yeah.
my head I'm trying to get somewhere,
Hmm.
I know whether I'm there or not. And if I'm there, I'm happy with it. Then if somebody else tells
Okay.
me also that, look, can you push yourself, can you try this, I'm like, look, as a
To do.
formality I think you can, but I don't
Yeah.
think that goes with what we're trying to do in the scene. So I know in my head, okay, that's being reached, and we can do that. When it comes to, for example, work and advertising, look, there is
Yeah.
a, again, in my head I know what sounds good, but you have to go through layers, right? In advertising, the way it works, I might have something in my palm which may be good for me but may not be ticking certain boxes for account management, or maybe it's
Hmm.
ticking boxes for the agency but it's not ticking for the client, or maybe it's
Yeah.
ticking for everybody it's not ticking for my boss or my boss's boss, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there is that one layer of, okay, everybody has to sign off on this.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, you're also less sure, because in your head you're like, okay, this is a great thing, but acha, this person didn't like it, or this person said it's nice but this is not what they're really looking for.
Yeah.
So again, it is a downer, right? If I create something and somebody says this is not working, you feel like it's a downer. But
Yeah.
in an agency, it's happening so often at such a
So
at such a rapid pace over the years. You learn to not, what we call, you don't you know take it too much. If you don't feel too bad about it, you need to move on faster.
just shifting gears to one something that I really, really want to ask you. I think you are someone who has had the privilege to work professionally and be on sets with the likes of Boman Irani, Shahrukh Khan as well, right? So and many others. Tell us some just double click into that aspect of your career, like any nice anecdotes, experiences of working with them on some of the brand ads.
So, so what happens in advertising is, when a casting director calls an actor for an
Hmm.
ad, especially if it's an
Hmm.
ad which has a celeb in it,
Yeah.
so that becomes a selling point. They'll call you and say, look, we are you free for an ad on such and such day? It is with whatever, Dhoni or Shahrukh Khan or Salman or Kohli or whoever it is,
Yeah.
because that is supposed to be the fruit dangling from the tree that everybody goes and grabs.
Yeah.
And again, and as expected for many people, it is a big thing. Like, but in my case, I'm like, okay, I just don't want this to be a miss sell. So I will say that, look, that sounds good, but until I see the script for sure, I won't know. So if I, for example, if you give me a script and I go through it and I'm like, okay, this is definitely with a select,
Yeah.
but what I have to do in this ad is extremely, there is it's of no impact. Anyone can do it, or it will not really stay. It won't be enjoyable. It won't be memorable. Then
Yeah.
I'm like, look, what's the point? I mean, it's not like I'm going to go and do it just to get a selfie or tell people, look, I acted with so and so. So because of this, there have been a lot of ads that have come my way that have consciously said no. I know. For example, there have been ads with Salman that have been offered, and I've said no, look, because I don't see myself enjoying. When this ICICI ad came with Shahrukh, the moment I looked at the script, I realized, look, this is, I mean, as an actor, there is so much to do, and it's Shahrukh Khan, so it's a win-win. So I put my all into the audition, and I was there on set, and it was again, working with someone like that is very. It's very how should I put it? Because it's ads, and ad films have a you can't just meander like a film shoot on and
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Aaj nahi hua to kal karne kal to. You have a day, and you have to do it on that day. And a professional actor like Shahrukh Khan understands exactly how to just get stuff done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done my shot. If the director says, look, this needs to be changed, I know exactly what I need to do. I'll change it. If it's still not there, I'll get it at the third time. There's no question of let's do 30 takes, let's try, and they know exactly what to do. So in that sense, it was terrific.
Congratulations, Rajiv. सुना है प्रमोशन हो गया, साथ में कोई स्पेशल बैंक अकाउंट भी मिल गया हैं?
ICICI Bank, the one savings account.
अब तो बड़ा घर, बड़ी गाड़ी.
Loan processing fee पे waiver है. Gift दो इधर.
Good show, guys. Well done.
Good.
अच्छा, और क्या मिलता है?
Relationship manager, stock brokerage पे waiver.
My abiding memory of that day was we were shooting in Bandra, in Mehboob Studios in Bandra. So the floors are segregated.
Yeah.
Right? There are different floors, and we were in formal in suits, and it had rained that day. So after finishing a chunk of our shooting, we were to look before your last shot. You need to go to the other floor where there's a still photo shoot happening. So Shahrukh Khan had reached there, and I had just finished giving my shot, and they arranged for an umbrella. But somehow, by the time I reached the other floor, a few drops had fallen on my suit, and I didn't realize it. So I just did a general pat down. I didn't realize that on the what do you call this, on the lapels there was a little bit of water.
Yeah, there was a
so
mark.
we were both standing there and taking position. Yeah, and there's just drops of water, and suddenly he starts wiping it off. And obviously, I go red in the face. I'm like, what is happening?
Shahrukh Khan wiping your
and I said,
water.
Yeah, but I said, please tell me where, and he said, no, it's done. And once he finished it, like he did in 2 seconds, and I was like, okay, now as a formality, I should, but there was nothing left. There were like literally 4 drops, and he had wiped them. So like, what do I do? And I said, let me look at his. Is there something that can I return the favor? But obviously, he was completely dry. So another one that I remember is I was acting in a film, Shaadi ke Side Effects, and it was it ended up being a 2-day shoot, a very very small scene, very very forgettable, but it's a party scene, right? And the whole point of the scene that the scene is supposed to show how modern day families and parents, they never give up the rat race. Like you're always competing, and when it comes to your kids and parties, your kids become your engines of competing with other parents.
Yeah.
So the whole scene is basically this piñata, this koi bag is burst, and it falls, and it's almost like no parent wants their kid to not get the best pieces or whatever. So it's not just the parent, it's not just the kids. The parents also get involved. That chalo go grab. So that was the whole point of the scene. And
you were one of those parents. I'm one of those
parents. And there's Farhan Akhtar and Vidya Balan as well over there. So and Farhan Akhtar is also one of the parents, and he's also involved with the melee, right?
Correct.
So we've done some shots.
Now I remember the sequence. I'd seen it.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Now the director comes and says, "Look, now what we have to do is." He tells me, you notice that there's some treat that's lying on the other side, and Farhan has just dived and he's lying. So you have to basically stomp over him and go. So when the shot came, I skipped over him and went. And the director came and said, what did you do? I said that. He said, no, you can't skip. You have to stomp over him. You have to literally put your foot stamp on it. I was like, but how do I do it? Because I was maybe max 5.
Is Farhan hearing all this?
And he also thinks he's misunderstood the scene. So the director's clarifying. And I said that, but how do I stamp on him? So he said, you stamp on his butt and go. I was like that.
Yeah.
Firstly, when my body weight. Now you're telling me that Farhan Akhtar is lying flat. I'm supposed to put my right foot on his bum, my whole body weight on him, and go. He said, "Yeah, good. Now you've got it." And and then Farhan is like, do it. Like, what do I say? And I'm like, what have I learned in theater? Have I learned any such technique in the theater exercise whereby you
That
don't
you
put the
can.
entire body weight?
Yeah.
I had to do it. I had to put my foot, and I just said, "Chalo, do it," and I did it. And
I
I'm like,
can't
my
resist a
goodness.
relevant pun. You needed to do a soft landing like Chandrayaan. Yeah. And then,
Yes, I did do a soft.
yeah. How did?
Exactly.
Please go on. Yeah. Yeah.
And I managed to. I did it, and then at the end of the scene, we had to do. There was one shot where I was, we were both Farhan and I both supposed to reach for
Yeah.
that same treat,
Candy. Yeah.
and we're supposed to do a
Treat.
tug of war. And I said, look, there is nothing in the scene. I just have this one shot where the camera is actually on me and him, and I don't even know if the shot was there in the film. I haven't seen it. And I said, let me give this my acting also. And I remember without discussing with him, because he was also trying to improvise and enjoy the
Yeah.
scene in
Yeah.
various. I could tell
Yeah.
from the shots. So in that scene, I tried a couple of tactics. Like it's almost like when actors signal to other actors that look, I'm doing
Mm.
something in the shot which we haven't discussed, but you get the vibe. Okay, it's a call for improvisation. So the other actor responds. So he took the thing and we did it. This is like 2 seconds of a shot, right? But the
Yeah.
lead up to the shot is that you do it, and he did it, and the shot was cut. And then he didn't say, he just patted me on the back. That was his way of saying, okay, understood what
That
you
is
did,
it.
and that was
Yeah.
better. Yeah. And that was, and I don't know, maybe there was one more shot after that, and that was the end of that film for me. But I was like, chalo, this, at least there is this. I can say that, one day I stomped on Farhan
Bum.
butt and
Yeah.
crossed over to the other side. Yeah.
No, but
And
I
Shahrukh
love
Khan has
that.
wiped by.
And Shahrukh Khan has wiped your nipple. But I love that bit that you mentioned that even in those 2 seconds, how you wanted to like dig deep and wanted to bring out your acting prowess. Right? It reminded me of that Shotto Itrai story, right? Patal Babu film star. He had this one line. Oh,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and
yeah,
that
exactly.
right. So which later I think in Bombay Talkies there was this, which was that short film that I think Anurag Kashyap directed it with Nawazuddin. But anyway, that's beautiful. But
Nawaz, yes, yes.
yeah, I forgot that.
And I
Yeah.
think Sadashiv Amrapurkar is also in it, right?
Yes,
He's
yes,
the
his
yeah,
teacher,
yeah,
his
yeah.
mentor and teacher. Yeah. So talk about KBC and Boman Irani, shooting with Boman Irani and obviously being on set on KBC. Go ahead.
So Boman and shoot was actually at the height of the COVID restriction, so that was done on Zoom. So I wasn't able to be there physically on set, even though it was being shot here. But I missed that. We just managed to say hi on Zoom towards the end. But yeah, Amitabh Bachchan, that 3 or 4 month period when I was working on season 7 of KBC, because it was an amazing intersection for me. Right? It was quiz, it was knowledge, which is something I'm very passionate about, as
Yeah.
well as it was a professional commitment, as well
Yeah.
as it was with a show like that. So it was entertainment and everything that came together, and it's work wise in terms of my professional life. It is the
It's
single
like
best period of my career.
ikigai happening in life for you. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolute
Yeah.
ikigai.
Yeah.
It was in Yashraj, which is a Yashraj Film Studio, which is a
Yeah.
terrific
Yeah.
studio, which
Yeah. What
was like
plus?
10
What
minutes from
plus?
where I stayed. So I would just zip down. I should call it a stolen nano, because I still don't know who owned that nano I used to drive. There was a nano and there were car keys, and I used to take the car keys. It fit the nano, so I used to drive it and go everywhere. So in that stolen yellow nano, I would go to shoot in Yashraj Films, KBC, and Amitabh Bachchan, there's no end to the number of stories. But my two abiding memories of KBC are one morning in September. Some of the Sony TV people come to me and say, "Acha, listen, Amitabh Bachchan is calling you to the makeup van. He wants to talk to you." So I obviously, whatever I had in mind, I dropped it. I said, "Wow, now I can tell I can tell my grandkids that one day, Amitabh Bachchan called me to his makeup van." And this is so surreal. It's so bizarre. I reached the van, and obviously his guards make me, and they open the door, and I enter, and I can see this other lady, who's from the studio. I know. I'm like, hi. So I enter, and Amitabh Bachchan, he's just going through some papers, and he sees me, looks down, and he says, "Namaskar, I'm Amitabh Bachchan." So, which is in Bengali called
This
Namaste.
is okay.
Yeah, and which is Namaste, मैं Amitabh Bachchan हूँ.
Yeah.
So I smiled. I said, and this is like after like 3 weeks of working together and chatting. So I was like, I said, "Sir, Johnny, sir," and it was not. It was almost like at the end of Ramayana, somebody that's, by the way, now my name it was Lord Ram. So I was like, "Huh, sir," and I get this hard nudge from the Sony person. And she was like, And then he goes on. He was basically saying, "Namaskar, Amitabh Bachchan. Ami সবাইকে শারদীয়ার শুভেচ্ছা জানাতে." Then I realized somebody had sent him a radio script for a
Oh,
Durga Puja brand, which he wanted to just run by me.
okay.
That am I saying this correctly? So he didn't. There was no preamble.
Okay.
He was just reading it out to me. I heard the first line.
Uh,
Interrupted.
I don't okay.
Duh.
Yes. Wait, once again, what did you say? Has and Jani. Right?
Has
That's
a
what I
journey.
said.
Second, he had a designated. There was a on the first floor. There was a designated area for him where he could go rest with his own personal toilet, whatever. But and on the ground floor there was a common area. But one particular day, he didn't want to go all the way because there was a huge time crunch. So he went to the men's gents room that was there, and obviously his guards, everybody, they cleared everyone out, right? And it's almost like it's almost like a Mr. Bean movie, because I didn't know this was happening, right? I emerged from one floor of the studio, and those two people had cleared everybody out, and what they done is they had left the doors basically to herd other people out saying, "Look, don't crowd around here." And I didn't see that, right? I emerged from the door. I had to go to I go to the door, and I open the door and I entered, right? In the side of my, I can see them, but I don't think twice of it. So it's just me. I go to the men's urinal, and I can hear, there's somebody who's, inside the men's room and says,
No way.
and yeah. And so then I come and I'm at the basin. I'm washing my hands, and suddenly Amitabh Bachchan comes up, and I look at him. He also looks at me nervously. He's like this, I was like this, and then I'm washing hands. I'm like, my God, what is happening? Of all the things, and I'm like, should I just stay silent? What should I do? Because washing, then you have to take soap, you have to dry. So it's an eternity in that time. So I said, something I have to say. So I said, I remember I said, sir, आप जो परफ्यूम पहनते हो ना, ये सब जानना चाहते हैं आप कौन सा परफ्यूम पहनते हो, because when you enter, like, everybody knows this. I asked him, I said, what, because he had a very strong when you enter, there was this very strong whiff, and everybody's like, what is it? I don't know, I can't recognize it. Is it this? No. I said, what do you wear? I said, no, it's a mix of three things that I put together and I split it. I was like,
Okay.
Oh, okay, that's why nobody can identify which one it is. And that was it. Now when I come out, suddenly his two bodyguards are like, look at me like, hey, where did this guy enter from? I thought I cleared the box, but since he was behind me, so we sort of, I emerged with that. I was like, also that, what do you all know? Then I went back to so it was
Awesome.
There were so many great memories.
So, Dhruv, when did your quizzing journey start? Like, I think, like you mentioned, that was always there as a passion. I mean, when Calcutta and Quizzer and all of that, you had worked with Synergy, Sid Basu, etc. Right, so on KBC and already, but then how has the passion got deeper and how has it evolved? And I want you to sort of touch base upon the evolution of the space as well, like with panel quiz now getting in there. Post pandemic, obviously the space changed. You have been at the forefront of the action in a lot of ways as well, and if you want to just throw some light on that front, how has that part of your life evolved?
So growing up in Kolkata, quizzing is very much a part of the school circuit, right? So when I was in school, you would do quizzes within school and hope to represent your school in something, whether it was the Limca or the Maggie or BKC or whatever it was. But at least that was one of the things I enjoyed, like like quizzing, elocution, drama, like this general world was where I was comfortable. So I would thoroughly enjoy representing my house in quizzes, and that was it. And in the college in Delhi, the college quizzing circuit is very, very, very active, and North Campus especially, it's extremely there, right? So when you hold inter-college quizzes, open quizzes. Every college has one, and they do, throughout the year. So I would regularly do everything, like bunk classes to go for quizzes. So I was, but I was never ever very, very good, because I would never, whatever little, as a child, I used to thoroughly enjoy doing things like, mugging up world capitals, mugging up names of the list of presidents, prime ministers, kings, whatever, few things I would do. But again, over there, you're meeting people who've done that and 100 more of that, right? And they're more regular. I was not very up to date with news. Very interestingly, in college, what they say, now your head turns, right? College, my first year completely turned my head, and how? To the extent that I would go back and I would wall up that guy if I met him. When I came to college, and my music taste started changing before everything else. Previously, I was into more popular rock and pop. In college, I started getting into, I started discovering the entire world of classic rock, and it became, there was a peer pressure that comes with it, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. You get into the entire phase, and and you're also doing theater, right? So the Shakespeare Society in St. Stephen's College is, again, it's a very it is a very elitist and elite
Yeah.
both, whatever you call it. There's
Yeah.
something in that space. I don't know. That's the reputation it's always had, right? So there's a gang or there's a world that you inhabit in that. So I would inhabit that world. Then I would come out and I would inhabit a world with my Cal friends. I would inhabit a world with my, the cricketers, for example. I was very much, I was a huge fan of cricket. So I
Yeah.
would befriend anybody in the college cricket team I could. And then slowly, I started doing more and more quizzes, meeting more and more people. And obviously, the more quizzes you do, you tend to get a little better. But I never propelled myself to, drive myself to be better. That actually happened post International Quiz Festival began. That became a legacy. So that became like a new calendar fixture in my life that wasn't a relic from before my time.
Correct.
It was in my life, and I was a part of it. So all of us used to, we have all
You
been
have
part
been
of it. So
involved in KIQ from the beginning, 2011 onwards, I remember.
yeah,
12,
the
11,
first
yeah,
quiz.
yeah,
So and that becomes something you look forward to. So you push yourself, you do more open quizzes. Once pandemic hit and online quizzing came on in a big way, that I think that kicked it into the stratosphere. But again, there's a reason for me being this heavily involved in quizzing in the last 2 years, because it coincided with my separation. So when my separation
told
happened,
us.
I realized that this is something in which I can put all my energy into. This,
Yeah.
and I recently started watching NBA as well. So these were two things that were, really,
Yeah.
pushing, driving. Like wake up in the mornings with a purpose to watch games. Evenings, there are quizzes happening. And of course, work is happening, but work is a part of life.
I believe creativity is above everything else a lot of discipline, right? So and that's something that I have a firm belief in, and I think you must be having some discipline to be creative consistently, right? So hence I want to know what is that discipline that you have.
So
Discipline.
so obviously, you're right. There is a rigor and a discipline that you have to put behind it, and depending on what the brief is, there are different approaches to follow, right? So if it's a one approach sometimes is, okay, this is the brief, this is what is needed. Now, if I were literally day 101 class, what would I do? So you come up with the simplest possible brief. Okay, this is your brief. Why not come up with this line? The worst, most basic, like what a 5-year-old might come up with. And then you build from that. And so, okay, this is obviously too simple. Now, can this be better? Can this be better? And then there are lots of hacks. Like, for example, in Ogilvy, we've learned various hacks. Like, if this is what you're supposed to, if this is what the brand is offering, approach it in different ways. What if this wasn't there in a person's life? What would it be like? What if play around with the word? Is there something in the framing that you can play around with? Right. The easiest thing and that's one thing that I have learned while being in creative is the easiest thing to do is wordplay and puns, but avoid it unless it's absolutely needed, because it's almost sometimes that can be. It can look like very poor. It can look like trying to make up for a genuinely good creative idea. You're trying to hide it, right? Unless you do it really well. For example, if you see the entire Indigo campaign, when they've used wordplay with cities or whatever, because they've said, look, that is our zone. Similar with Amul, right?
It's on the category.
It's
on the category.
Correct. Even with Amul, all the puns and wordplay, that is what it is. That is a USP. If a brand is not into that, then to say, okay, why don't we come up with an entirely punny campaign? It's not necessarily a bad idea, but it has to be a
Dhruv,
great idea.
I'm just, it's such a beautiful example. I mean, last week there were at least 10 face care brands which said Chand Sa Roshan Chehra, like, and belong to their product on top of a moon. Anyway,
correct.
Please continue.
But so that's also part of it, right? In any of those agencies, you're writing and then you're like, hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
What is in this line that I have come up with that nobody else will come up with? Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody will. It's okay, like where will we, where will we go? So it is that is the, even we've had to write on so I don't even remember which I also had they said, look, Chandrayaan is your brief, we have to come up with a congratulatory post for Chandrayaan, right? So again, I also tried to say we reach for the moon, whatever. Where else can you go? Because you have to reference
only that many puns and idioms around.
Exactly, those references. So that is there. But so the idea is behind the brief is to say, look, okay, can I make it at least at some level charming? So for me, rather than wacky, creative, the word that I have come to be most comfortable with is, can it be charming? And when I say charming, I mean charming when you're even presenting it to a client, right? So for example, when I was working with you, I'm like, okay, this is the idea. When I put this in a deck and I present it, it should not be, what is this boring, they didn't put any thought into it. Neither should it be that, this person is just trying to show off some really cool kick-ass idea, some wild idea. It's like you ask for a simple shot, and I'm like, you
Yeah.
take a drone from the moon and come down. No, what's the point? There's no point showing it. You come at
Yeah.
something that people will like, okay, that's a very interesting iteration, right? If I've interested you, then I'm halfway there, because after that it's a question of, because nothing ends at that first meeting, right? It
Yep.
is developed between the agency and the client. The production house comes in, or whoever that vendor is comes in and adds more value, puts something and comes up with something, right? So some of the best campaigns that I've worked on personally have been those where I'm like, okay, this is what I have foreseen, this is my script. I go to the client likes it, and they said, look, is there something more? I said, look, let's now
Yeah.
leave it in the hands of whichever director is going to make these films. And then
Mm.
when the directors come in and they put in their views, I'm like, wow, just it's incredible where they've taken the film, and you will see that, right? So when it's a great practice for us who are in the advertising agency to watch an ad film, and you're like, acha, brief kya tha? What was the starting point of this? Okay, this was the
Yeah.
single line brief, and this is what they stuck to. Okay, this
Yeah.
could have been, what the starting point was. Did a director come and do his own thing? So like it is part of the whole, right?
Like you mentioned at the beginning of this, how shifting out of Calcutta and you have been a home bug always, change your perspective, right? And cross tab that with your usage of, let's say, internet. And I know for a fact that how you have been one of the fastest holders and processors of information with regards to quizzing. How is all of that across all your vocations and interests? How has your learnability changed over the years? If I
Again,
ask
the
you.
internet is a tool, right? It's in your hands, and it's up to you to decide what you take from it, how you use it. So if I'm donning my hat as a quiz set, as a question maker, so how I use the internet also becomes very, very helpful, right? I can either do a search like, okay, interesting facts or figures, or I have a
Mm.
way in which I want to frame a question, so I will put very specific things in a quotation within quotes, because I
Mm.
know that's how Google works. Then I will
Yeah.
exclude certain terms, because then I can find the interesting facts and pull it out.
Mm.
For
Mm.
as someone who's trying to learn, again, there's so much content, right? And I get very easily overwhelmed, right? For me, like, the OTT boom has been great, but it's also a source of massive FOMO, because
Yeah.
you drop off for a week, you come back, and there are people talking about an entire new series, an entire new movies that have dropped, shows, stand-up comedy, whatever it is. So there is a lot of
Right.
FOMO. You can't consume it
Keep
all.
up.
Same with the internet, right? People are like, keep up. Yeah, like, okay, there are people who follow some of these great podcasts, so you're like, okay, even I should follow the
Mm.
podcasts that I thoroughly enjoy. But then you lose time on following the YouTube channels that you enjoy. Then if you do that, you lose time. So it is largely dictated by what you want, what you need. So for me, learnability maximum comes from videos, right? So articles, the best content is actually is still books and paid content, like journals and great magazines, right? There's stuff like Wikipedia is interesting as at a factual knowledge, but in terms of stuff like insights, right?
Yeah.
Understanding how the world works, the patterns. That's why newsletters, podcasts. That's where the real beauty is, where stories are told. So for
Yeah.
me, it's the same. When I drive to office every morning, I will listen to one episode or two episodes from a podcast that is something information based, because the quizzing, the quiz kid in me will obviously be attracted to that. Otherwise, also, it's like, this is something that I'm not familiar with. Maybe it's
Mm.
something to do with the world of business, something to do with the world of science or history, perspectives, discussions, and stuff. I may have known only two things about this. Now,
Yep.
via this podcast, I've learned so much more that I didn't know. Right. So
Mm.
it is about being open to receiving new forms of information.
And you are someone who wears all these different hats, right? Do you also feel at times that you take on a different role and play that different role in that particular walk of life? Is something that you do consciously?
So I think all of y'all, all my friends, anybody who interacts with me regularly, you would have noticed that it's in my case, so I'm not shy. So I bring that into my day-to-day life rather than the opposite. So it's almost like, throughout the day, I'm in my normal interactions, I'm either doing something or the other. So falling in and out of character, it's just part of my nature. It's been that way. I used to be shy till about class 8 9. The day I won my first ever extemporaneous speaking competition, that was the day, that was the first time I was on stage addressing, right? So whatever nervousness I could have had, it dissipated after that. So after that, I've never been. So I don't feel that I have to be somebody else. All of this is based on confidence. So anything that I can hope to do with comfort is
Mm.
based on confidence for me, right? And the
Yeah.
reason I'm saying this is because the things that I feel I'm not intrinsically good at, it bothers me, right? Like you said, that search for perfection. So for
Yeah.
example, much to my regret, I have not grown up with the command over my own mother tongue, Bengali.
Mm.
Whenever I
Mm.
used to do acting in Bengali, especially when I've done serials, acting in
Yeah.
serials, because I am not comfortable, I know I am not doing justice, 100% justice to it. Because I'm not doing 100% justice to it, I'm letting myself down in my own eyes, and I'm extremely nervous. I'm very, very diffident. I'm just like, okay, let me just pull it off and run. So, my entire approach is different. It's not something that I do enjoyably.
Got it.
So the more, let's say, the more naturally able I am to do something, the happier I'm doing it, and the more confident I am, and the less scared I am. The moment if you ask me today, for example, to address a group of people on a topic on which I have no idea, and say it doesn't matter. In my case, it does, because I'm like, if I don't know anything about this and I'm talking to people, I'm sounding like a fool to myself. So at best, I will pull wool over their eyes, but I'll hate myself. And at worst, they'll catch on to the fact that I don't know anything, and I'll look
You're
like
bluffing, yeah.
so confidence and at least self-awareness is very, very important. Knowing this is what I can do,
Yeah.
and this is what is beyond me. And if I try, and though I may want to do this, but if it's beyond my ability and I keep trying to do it, I will end up looking like a fool. So that people don't suffer fools gladly. Most people don't. I also don't. So
Yeah.
that is an
Well,
important facet. Yeah.
considering this unique journey, what tips or advice will you have for anyone listening into this to become one more Dhruv, who just has fun and goes by the flow, and at the same time
See,
kills it at whatever vocation he or she picks up?
Traditionally, at least in my growing up, or whatever the orthodox notion was, and which has also been explored in movies, that kill the artist in you, and do your job, focus on your career, let go of your passion and do that. And that has been the dichotomy forever, right? And for many, it has been a reality until recently, because if I'm focusing on my career, then I can only do that. I don't have time to pursue. Now, if you just do what I said, or what you call about time sharing, so look, if I have a job and I have these many hours that I have to give to it, can I or can I not take 1 hour out, 2 hours out, whatever time it is? Some people take time out to go to the gym. Some people take time out to play badminton every day, whatever it is. If you take time out and say, look, I'm going to develop a skill of mine, or I have a skill and I'm going to create something around it, right? Maybe if I'm an excellent singer, and at some stage in my childhood, I was like, I want to grow up to be a singer, but then, life kicked in and I realized, no, yeah, I have to follow my career. I won't be a singer. The fact is, you be a singer, because you've got every platform, you've got social media to reach people. Either people will like it, love it, be indifferent to it, hate it, whatever it is, you have to be willing to take that, right, as part of your learning curve. If it is really that good, if it is that something, who knows, tomorrow that can be the turning point in your career, right? So you have the advantage now of being able to have your cake and eat it too. Do what you're supposed to do, as well as follow your passion in some small degree. Reach out, see how it's going, see how you can improve it, see whether you want to do it. Some people, for example, for me, quizzing is something I thoroughly enjoy on the side. So I'm very, very happy not trying to monetize every single moment of my quizzing, because it is therapeutic for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy waking up and saying, okay, look, I have this idea for a quiz which I'm setting, which I want to work on, which people will like. And especially now when you're reaching so many people across the world, you're more motivated to do it and you enjoy it more, right? And that is separate from my job. So I'm not waking up thinking that, okay, now can't I just quit my job and do this? No, because I'm able to do it. Tomorrow, if it so happens that there is something that drives me to do something else full time, I might look at that, right? But you have to be willing to say, look, I have the time. I just need to have the willingness and the inclination to just pursue this for what it is, as a passion, take it forward, and then see where it goes. Because and it has nothing to do with your age. You don't have to put any time. You can start at 50 and see, for 30 years I've been doing this. You know what? I've always been interested in dancing. Let me start doing dance classes. Or I've been interested in this particular subject that I love speaking on. Let me just start a video podcast and start talking about this thing that I really love. And tomorrow, if people thoroughly love it, who knows where you'll be 5 years from now.
Love it. I mean, Dhruv, what I took out from your answer is going deep in your craft, right, which you have successfully done, and that's what I think you were leaving behind to the listeners. I love that. I love that, and being open to going deep as well, right? So because this time more than ever before in past human history, probably there are so many tools. Like, pick up a mic and start your podcast, for example. Everything else is possible, right? So awesome. Dhruv, I love the episode for sure. I hope you liked it. I remember, and I like the fact that how. Yeah, Dhruv, and I remember when I reached out to you for this episode, your first reaction was, "What would I talk about?" And that is so typically you, from what you just explained. That is
because
it the
I thought it was
subject
supposed to be
matter?
academic. Yeah. I said it's a marketing specialization. So this, for example, EIMC itself is an example, right? There may have been a time, if this were, for example, 20 years ago and you were who you were, you'd be like, okay, there's so much, I have so many ideas, there's so much I want to talk about marketing in so many ways, but there's no way of doing it. I'm just stuck, right? And that barrier has disappeared because you've got this. You just have to just tell a bunch of people, look, I want to do this. Let's get together. Let's do this. And
Yeah.
the internet is your friend. The world is your friend, and you can just reach people, right? So that's the advantage we've got now.
Yeah. I love it because I think what you explained about the internet and what you just explained in your answer here as well, I think it takes me back to this one tagline of one of Google's original campaign as a search engine, that the internet is what you make out of it, right? So that was the line. And I think you in a lot of ways typify that through, I think, at least 3 or 4 of your many vocations. And thank you so much for your time. I think.
Hi, everyone. Like, share, and subscribe to the East India Marketing Company. If you thoroughly enjoyed this video, you must do it. If you didn't enjoy this video, you must do it because the next one will be better. If you haven't watched this video, subscribe so that you can watch great videos like this in the future.